and welcome to What's Cookin'. I wonder what's been cooking with you at home. What have you been up to this summer? Do you have any big plans for the fall? I know we're still in a really unusual time, and I think during this time it's important for all of us to stay positive and to keep each other smiling. So the library is going to do as much as they can to help with that effort, right? We want you to be happy, and we're going to create as many virtual classes as we can for you to do at home. A lot of them with your family, some of them on your own, but you can do them at your convenience because they'll all be uploaded to our website for you to view at a time when it's convenient for you. One such class is this What's Cooking class with me, Missy Lane. I'm excited about this class because it combines two of my favorite things, reading and cooking. And I hope you'll be excited too. This class is unique in that we're not just going to make a recipe, but we're going to read a story first and then share the recipe that goes along with it. So today's book is called Gazpacho for Nacho, and it's written by Tracy Kyle, and it's illustrated by Carolina Farias. In a big, big city, by a large, busy plaza, lived a very small boy in a simple white casa. Casa means house in Spanish. Did you know that? The name of this tiny muchacho was Nacho, and all he would eat was a soup called gazpacho. Gazpacho for breakfast, gazpacho for lunch, gazpacho for dinner, for snacks, and for brunch. So gazpacho is this little boy's favorite food. He likes it so much that it's all he'll really eat. He didn't like meat or the smell of pescado. He didn't like chicken or ice-cold helado. And when he saw slices of manchego cheese, he asked, "Is there any gazpacho left, please?" Some more new Spanish words on this page, right? He didn't like meat or the smell of fish. He didn't like chicken or even ice cream. Who doesn't like ice cream? Helado is ice cream. Mami would say, "You're a picky muchacho." Nacho would say, "But I just want gazpacho." At breakfast, he woke up to leche and churros. He cried, "Mami, ay, this food is for the burros." Churros are like fried dough with cinnamon and sugar on top. I think they're delicious. Nacho doesn't want any. He said, "Oh, these are for the donkeys." For snacks, Mami sliced up chorizo and bread. Nacho would ask for gazpacho instead. At lunchtime, Mami serves a Spanish tortilla. Nacho would put the pan under his silla. He put it under his chair because he didn't want to eat it. At dinner, Mami fried mushrooms, or setas, and served them with rice next to crispy croquetas. She filled up a bowl with fresh loaves of pan and whipped up a custard dessert that she called flan. All of the food was rejected by Nacho. "Gazpacho, gazpacho," he cried. "Más gazpacho." There wasn't a plato that Nacho would touch. Mami grew tired from cooking so much. "Nacho," she cried, "it's not right, no es justo, that all of these meals are not to your gusto. You're coming with me to the market. We're shopping." "I'm learning to cook?" Nacho asked, his eyes popping. I think he's excited about that, right? He'll get to cook in the kitchen. The market was bustling. People were looking for all the legumbres they needed for cooking. Nacho's mouth watered while gazing at piles of colorful vegetables stretched out for miles. Onions, potatoes, cebollas y papas, bamboo and spinach, bambú, espinazas, cucumbers and mushrooms, pepinas y setas, lettuce and lentils, lechuga, lentejas, corn, avocados, maíz, aguacates, and last but not least, bright red juicy tomates. So they went shopping at the market, right, for tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers and all these wonderful things. Tomatoes, said Mummy, for you to cook, Nacho. You'll learn to prepare your beloved gazpacho. Olé, Nacho cried. I can cook. Yes, I can. And off to the puestos of veggies he ran. He gathered tomates that smelled fresh and clean and found a pepino whose skin was dark green. Remember, a pepino is a cucumber. Among all the colorful, fresh alimentos, he picked out a few crispy green pimientos. He added a small clove of garlic, or ajo, and set off for home to begin el trabajo. He set off to get to work. Dressing the part with a huge chef's sombrero, Nacho felt just like a true cocinero. With bright red tomates piled up to his chin, he looked up at Mami and said, let's begin. They cored and they sliced and they diced and they seeded the pounds of tomatoes and peppers they needed. So tomatoes are the main ingredient in gazpacho, along with some other fresh vegetables and a little bit of seasoning. Do you think you would like gazpacho? We're going to find out real soon. Mami then carefully chopped a cebolla. Nacho helped finding a pot, a large olla. Nacho, said Mami, I need the pepino. He gave her the cucumber. What a good niño. Mami then crumbled some bread in the pot and left it to soak till it softened a lot. They sprinkled some sal and it flew in the air. Ay, Nacho, cried Mummy, the bowl's over there. Lastly, she drizzled a very small drop of oil and vinegar over the top. She blended the soup in a big batidora and left it to chill in the fridge for 1 hora. Got a little messy with the salt, didn't he? Sometimes it's okay to make a mess in the kitchen, as long as you clean up after yourself. So they put all this gazpacho together. Gazpacho really is like a cold soup, right? They made this soup together, and then they put it in the refrigerator to chill for 1 hour. Dinner that night was a wonderful treat. Nacho, cried Mummy, la cena, come eat. Nacho rushed into the kitchen and saw the bowls of gazpacho and stood there in awe. Bowl after bowl after bowl of gazpacho, cooked by a clever, creative muchacho. He sat down to eat with a giant sonrisa and finished the soup very quickly, deprisa. A sonrisa is a smile. So he was eating it with a smile because not only does he love gazpacho, right? We know it's his favorite food. But I think he's also smiling because he's proud of himself. He made it himself with a little help from Mom. But he is now a chef. Nacho was happy. But deep in his heart, he knew that gazpacho was only the start. He thought of the fresh, tasty meals he would make, the foods he would cook, and the sweets he would bake. Eagerly off to the kitchen he dashed, where all the legumbres, the veggies, were stashed. Mami, he said, though I love my gazpacho, I'm trying new recipes. Call me Chef Nacho. I think Mom's idea of taking him to the market was a good one. Right? Because now he's inspired to make new dishes and to finally try new things. I think we can say in the beginning of that story that gazpacho was rather picky, wasn't he? If he would only eat gazpacho, that's being a picky eater. It's good to try new things. And finally, Nacho's going to do just that. So, boys and girls, as I mentioned, at the end of this story, they give the recipe for gazpacho. And so now we can learn how to make gazpacho together. All right, chefs, let's get started cooking our gazpacho. Like I said, the recipe is in the back of this book, and you can find it on our website at, of course, bethelparklibrary.org. You'll want to click on the Kids tab and then find the Fall into Fun page. This recipe, along with some discussion questions about the book, which I'm calling Table Talkers, are available for you to, view or print off. so you can talk about the book more at home. Now, the great thing about cooking is that you can get creative, right? I feel like with baking, it's important to follow the recipe for a tea, to the T, or it might not turn out the way it's supposed to. But with cooking, you can be a little bit creative. So the recipe is in the back of the book, but I'm going to put my own spin on things and maybe do things a little bit differently, and that's okay. In the book, it tells you to use a can of tomatoes, but I feel like anytime you can use fresh ingredients, fresh is better. So I have some real tomatoes right here. Now, if you don't have them growing in a garden of your own, tomatoes could be expensive to buy at the grocery store, in which case you may want to use the can of tomatoes. For the sake of time today, we're going to use the canned tomatoes in this recipe. So I'm going to dump a whole 28-ounce can into the bowl. But again, and this is what Mami and Nacho did in the book, they used real tomatoes that they washed. Of course, it's always important to wash your veggies first, that they diced up, that they de-seeded. Okay, they chopped up fresh tomatoes, and that's what they used. If you remember, the other thing that they put in there was a pepino, a pepper, or I'm sorry, a pimiento, a pepper. So the recipe calls for one. I happen to like green pepper, and mine are kind of rather small, so I may chop up 2 whole peppers to use. The choice is yours. You want to be careful, boys and girls, anytime that you're chopping or slicing, to be very careful with the knife and probably have mom or dad's help, or at least supervision, right? You want to make sure the knife is sharp enough that it'll cut, but not too sharp that you'll get hurt. So I'm just using like a paring knife here, and that's working perfectly here for my green pepper. I'm going to chop them up nice and small because I like mine diced pretty small. Set those aside and do some more. Try not to waste any of the pepper, right? I try to get every last bit there, but of course you throw away the seeds, the core. We'll set those aside. And we're just going to keep chopping. Now I'm using a pimiento verde, a green pepper. Could you use amarillo or anaranjado? Sure. You can use a yellow or red pepper, or an orange pepper. Those would taste fabulous too. We said that tomates, the tomatoes, are the main ingredient, right? But if you didn't love tomatoes, could you go heavier on the other veggies? Sure you can. Like I said, I love pepper, so I'm going to chop up more pepper than the recipe actually calls for. I wonder if my friends at home, if any of you out there like spicy things, because you could even dice up a hot pepper or a jalapeno and throw that in here as well. I like spicy, but I don't have any jalapenos today, so that was just an idea. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just scoop up the peppers. Oh, and boys and girls, you didn't see me wash my hands, but of course I made sure to do that before I came over to the kitchen, to the kitchen center here, our little counter makeshift kitchen that we have set up in the studio. You always want to make sure that you wash those hands thoroughly before handling anything in the kitchen, right? That is step number 1. All right, so here comes our second pimiento. Chop this up as quickly as I can. Throw that in there. And our last little bit. Okay, so our pepper is all chopped. Now we're going to go to that pepino, right? A cucumber. So I've washed my cucumber too. I'm going to snip off the ends and just toss those in the trash. I washed it, and so we know it's clean, so I could leave the skin on. I prefer to peel my cucumbers, so we're going to go ahead and peel the cucumber using a veggie peeler. This is always fun to use. I always liked peeling vegetables. When I was a little girl, I remember helping my mom peel potatoes, right? Especially at Thanksgiving when you were getting ready to make those mashed potatoes. We were the potato peelers. I'm going to peel the entire cucumber. Okay, once it's all peeled, you want to clean your work area again, right? So we'll get rid of all these peels. Just set those in the trash. And then same thing, dice up our cucumber. So I'm just going to cut my little circles here. Do this part first. You can make them as thin or as thick as you'd like. And then I'm going to take each little circle and maybe quarter them, right? So that I'm getting those smaller bite-sized cucumber pieces. So little circle, cutting once in half, and then again the other way, so that I have 4 little cucumbers, cucumber chunks. And sometimes you can do 2 at a time, do like a little stack of cucumbers. So in half, and then in half again. In half, and half again. And if you wanted to do them smaller, you of course could do that. That would just take a little bit more time. But if you like things really chopped small, then take the extra time to do that. I love the smell of a fresh cucumber too. It smells so good and so fresh right about now. This one's a little big, so I am going to chop that one again. Oops, those are sticking together. Okay, so we're almost done with the cucumber. The next thing that our recipe in the back of the book calls for is onion powder. If you have onion powder and you'd like to use that, then certainly by all means do so. I'm going to go ahead and just start stirring up what we already have. The can of tomatoes, the fresh cucumber, and the fresh diced green pepper. So this is what our gazpacho looks like so far, right? Now, let me move this can out of the way. Now we're just going to season it. So like I said, the recipe calls for onion powder. But as I mentioned earlier, I like to use fresh ingredients whenever possible. So I'm actually going to chop up an onion. I might not use the whole thing because this is a rather large, it's a medium-sized onion. But we certainly don't need the whole thing because the recipe calls for like a teaspoon of onion powder or something like that, okay? But again, I happen to like onion. I like the flavor that it adds to dishes. So I'm going to use a fresh one. I'm only going to use half though. Did you notice, boys and girls, that when you're chopping an onion, sometimes it'll make you cry? It'll make your eyes water, right? I know it happens to me almost all the time. There are a couple tips to help prevent that or to lessen the amount of tears in your eyes. Did you know that? One such way is to chill your onions beforehand. You can put them in the refrigerator or even the freezer. So when you go to chop, there's like less enzymes in the gas that it gives off, and then your eyes won't tear up as much. I didn't find that out till recently, and I thought that was kind of a neat little trick, a tip to keep in mind. Another one is you could also light a match, with parents' help, of course. Light a candle or light a match right before you chop the onion, and that tends to help as well. You could also soak them in cold water if you didn't want to put them in the fridge. I have to say, upstairs in our library refrigerator, I had these onions chilling for a while, And check it out, friends. I'm not crying. Pretty nifty. Okay, there's my onion that I'm going to scoop up, throw in there, and then again, I'll give a little stir. And then it also calls for garlic powder. But Miss Elaine loves garlic, so anytime something calls for garlic powder, again, I'm always using fresh. I bought a couple cloves in my handy dandy garlic press. If you don't have one of these, you can certainly chop your garlic, but I like to use my press. Put the clove of garlic right inside, fold it over, and then press as hard as you can. You really got to use your muscles on this part. See, the garlic is coming out because I'm squeezing hard, but sometimes you'll have to use your knife to kind of scrape that off. Okay, then you can open this up, peel out the peel or the skin of the garlic, and then you're ready for another clove to go in there. So I'm going to put another clove of garlic in, turn it over, squeeze with all my might, and scrape that garlic off. Voila. Add garlic to your taste as much as you'd like. Just make sure you stir it up really well throughout the gazpacho. And now we only have a few ingredients left. You always want to add salt and pepper, season it with that. So I'm going to add just a dash of salt, right? And if I had pepper, I'd do my pepper. I forgot to bring my pepper to the library today. And then, if you remember in the book, Mommy drizzled over some olive oil and vinegar. You can use a red wine vinegar or sherry vinegar. Either one will do. You don't need a whole lot. This is kind of like a dressing. So I'm just going to kind of drizzle it over top. Oops. It calls for 3 tablespoons. Again, when you're cooking, you don't have to always follow the recipe exactly. You can kind of eyeball it. That's what I tend to do. And then it says for 1 teaspoon of vinegar. And that was more than a teaspoon, but that's okay. Now we're going to stir it up really well again, last time, before getting ready to serve or to taste. There's our lovely homemade gazpacho. Let's put it into a serving bowl. I'm going to go ahead and set all of these cooking tools aside. Bring over our bowls, right? This is made definitely enough for you, but probably enough to feed your whole family as well. So it's fun to make everybody in the family try something new. I only have 1 serving bowl down here though, so I'm just gonna kind of help myself to this yummy gazpacho. In the recipe from the book, it tells you to top it with croutons, which you can certainly buy in a bag at the store. This morning, before coming to work, I made my own croutons, which is also fun to do, especially if you have bread on your counter that's about to go stale, right? Rather than throwing it in the trash, you can make your own croutons. And that's exactly what I did. I took 3 pieces of Italian bread this morning and I cubed them up. I put them on a baking pan. I drizzled those with olive oil. You could also use melted butter. Salt, pepper, some oregano, whatever seasoning you like, some garlic, this one I did use garlic powder. And I baked it in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. Okay, I let them cool, and here's my croutons. I'm gonna add my homemade croutons. They're a little big. You might wanna chop them up smaller. I'm gonna add my homemade croutons to the top of my gazpacho. And there is a light and refreshing and healthy and delicious new recipe. Let's dig in and give it a try. Muy delicioso. I wonder what you think of it, boys and girls. Feel free to drop me a line. I would love to hear you via email. My email address is volpe@einetwork.net. Let me know what you think. And if you would like to send pictures also to my email of you guys cooking in the kitchen, I will happily share those on our Instagram pages as well as Facebook, with Mom and Dad's permission, of course. Okay? So feel free to email me. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you for our next What's Cooking.